Okay. Now let me just see if I could get the. Okay. Let's set this up. Perfect. Okay. So your name is Chris, obviously, and uh, the class that you're TAing is EdTech, correct?
Yes, yes, 6460.
Awesome. Okay. Now, how often do you use Piazza as a TA?
Um, do you mean in terms of the website or the app or the emails that I get from them?
Let's say all three.
In some form every day.
Okay. Would
I actually use the website probably mostly during grading cycles, which is once or twice a week.
mhm.
But I use the email. Email is a very important. There's an email. I'll read that and use that to keep up with it. And I use the app sometimes too because I get native notifications, so that helps answer that a little bit in more detail.
Okay. So for the most part, you're using emails and you're using the mobile app, and then you're using like once a week you're using the desktop application.
For all the grading, for all the feedback, for all the heavy contributions, for quick one line answers, I'll usually reply in the email, and to read other posts that show up in my notifications, I'll use the app. But for the heavy grading and the actually writing stuff, I use the website Piazza.
Okay. So what would you say are the most common tasks that you were using the app for?
The app or the website?
I'm sorry, the website.
I would providing feedback to the students, either the introductions or the feedback
Mm-hmm.
for the assignments that I'm grading, and I usually have a template that I follow. I'm currently grading the project, and I have a template in a Word document right next to my thing that says, my generic blurb, and then, I break down strengths, major concerns, minor concerns, suggestions, and requests. So kind of feedback, but I also use an external hack or a workaround with my Word document or my over here to help do that. So
Okay, that makes sense. Actually, very similar to my process for this class. Um, what would you say are the most useful features in the desktop application?
I like that I can format and bold text with the Command I and the Command B while I'm typing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that is really important, like the number of points I'm deducting or something, I will bold that.
Mm-hmm.
And I often quote the student, so I will copy text directly from their assignment and say, hey, what were you doing here? And I always italicize that just to make it stand out. And it's really nice to be able to Command B, Command I just as a quick, it's probably pretty obscure, but it's really helpful for me just in terms of my workflow to just to kind of do a couple commands without having to move my mouse or click around. Do that.
Okay, how about in terms of organizing, like organizing threads, organizing by student, by assignment, in that sense?
Um, it would be nice to have some better organization. It's really frustrating when I click on a link. Let's say I get an email saying that someone responded. I click on the email and it takes me to the top of the one that I did 27 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It's something that I would say is I don't know how to sort. Is there a way to sort by time where I see the most recent first? I'm not sure if that's there, but the way it is right now, that's a problem I have with it. It
Mm-hmm.
is very frustrating to have to scroll all the way to the bottom every time, especially like on the mobile version of the website.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so I don't know if these some of these questions may not apply to this
That's
particular
fine, just
class, but
asking.
how do you decide which I understand that you have questions in your personal threads that you have to respond to from the mentees, but general questions, general questions that you're reading on Piazza. How do you decide which questions to answer and which questions to skip?
If it's an area where I have either had past experience, either
Mm-hmm.
I have, I was in a PhD program. I had a lot of research training. I have a lot of like background. I never finished the PhD, but I did have 3 or 4 years of research methods and stuff like that. If it's an area where I feel like I can outright contribute to without like that, it's an area where I have a strength in, then I'm willing to chime in because my training is probably fairly similar to what you're going to get from anybody else out there. If it's a more technical question like what programming language or something like that I'm not as an area as an expertise, I generally don't contribute to those as much, even though I could. I'd like to make sure it's something that I'm actually qualified to contribute to.
Okay. As far as organizing your work, how do you keep track of which questions are outstanding and which questions you need to answer?
Email.
Mm-hmm. So you do it outside the app.
And I haven't addressed it yet, and I keep my email inbox at 0. Mm-hmm. So on a normal day, at the end of the day, I have 0 unread emails. If it's an email, I get an email every time that a new question is asked, I will mark it as unread or I'll flag it. And if I have that positive email outstanding, even I'll be like, why do I have 2 emails? And I'll look and I'll be like, 3 days ago I had a Piazza thread from one of the students that I haven't addressed yet. I probably need to go address that. That's, to me, is the most, because the resolved versus unresolved is very, who's supposed to mark it as resolved, I don't get that. And that is in no way like helpful to me to figure out, whether it's been resolved or not.
Okay. So you don't use that functionality at all?
No, it is way too unreliable because students can mark them, I can mark them. It has no correlation to me with the actual number of issues to be addressed.
Okay, that's a great point. What are some of the most frustrating features with the desktop application?
Search. If I want to search for something, when I click on it, it just brings me to the full thread for that. And some of these threads, by the end of the semester, I have 10, 15, 20, depending on how active the student is. It's really hard to figure out what I was searching for. It's like, I remember I'll be like, a student will be like, I remember I had some sort of prior discussion on this topic. Which one, which was it? And I'll remember the keyword and I'll search for it. And it's just too much work for me to be able to actually find what I was trying to find at times. So that's one of the more frustrating features for me. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one.
Okay. Do you have like a wish list of features that you would like to see added other than search?
I would like a way to organize threads. That would be a nice feature to be able to, in a given node or private thread that we have with our students, to change the date organization or change the find some sort of sorting feature so I can say see most recent first, or some sort of organization abilities like that. That I think would go a long ways.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. You know what? Now that you said it, I'm actually thinking of maybe it would make even more sense not to use a single thread for each student, but if we had a good way of sorting by student, then you would be able to see every single thread that you have with that student.
Yeah, that would be possible, or a way to break a thread out and break it up somehow.
Yeah.
Because by the end of a semester, especially for the active students, I don't know, I give a lot of feedback. Like, I give detailed I do a lot of writing in my feedback. So by the end of the semester, it's like 10 pages worth of content involving all their responses and everything. And it's a lot, to scroll down to the end every time for all the students. I'm kind of like, because I have a little trackpad for my Mac, it kind of gets annoying after a while. So. That was probably pedantic, but...
I'm sorry?
That's probably pedantic.
Well,
make sure I'm using that right.
It's,
trivial.
It's what... listen, if it bothers you, it's not trivial. Let me see. I think we addressed some of these already. I just don't want to ask the same questions twice, so bear with me for a second.
That's fine.
Okay, which features do you think could be improved? Again, other than search, which we discussed in detail, and breaking up threads.
I think it would be this whole resolved versus unresolved.
Hmm.
It would be interesting if there was a better classification, like student resolved, TA resolved, like some better way that might help with the emails, or maybe even a flag system where I could say flat somewhere, because the whole point of resolved versus unresolved is to make sure that the issues that need to be taken care of get taken care of. And I don't think it's doing the job right now. Some sort of way for me to personally say this is resolved versus unresolved, as opposed to the shared resolved versus unresolved. I think that would be very helpful. So I could say, like, I have, I don't know what the student thinks about this. I think this is resolved, and vice versa.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense too. Um, so do you use the favorite posts feature? I mean,
Let me see. Is that what that's called? Yeah, for all the TA stuff and any of the posts I'm interested in, all the students that I'm the mentor for, I wouldn't survive without that. I don't think, actually, because otherwise all my student posts would get lost. So I do use that a lot. Now that you mention it.
okay. And my last question doesn't really apply here because what I wanted to ask is, does your class use a single thread for projects or assignments, and how is that working? But I know in this particular class it's being used for mentor threads, so actually you're having all the same issues, and you already discussed the fact that you wanna have the ability to break them up. Is there anything else that you can think of that may be helpful?
Um, if the only way that breaking up would make it easier is if there was a way to easily sort by student, like very clearly where within one click I could get the list of all the student stuff. Breaking it up would be more complicated if it added any additional steps to it.
Okay.
If there was a way to say, all my interactions with John or whatever, and I click on that, and then I can see a summary of everything that I've done with him, that would be great. But if my favorites, if I now under my favorites have 15 posts for each person under my favorites, I would probably quit. So maybe not really quit, but I would probably consider it heavily, just because it would be more complicated than. Like, it's a good idea breaking it up, but it would have to not add additional steps to the workflow to make it work.
Okay. All right, Chris, thank you very much. This was actually a very short interview. I really appreciate all of your help.
Yep.
And I'm going to stop the recording